Now, you've just spoken of what constitutes voter bribery. Now we speak of what constitutes drought, and it definitely is a national disaster and a national crisis at this time. I have in studio Abbas Gullet, the Secretary-General of Kenya Red Cross, and thank you, sir, for making time. First of all, you're here for a special occasion at the Nation Media Group. Just tell us a bit, just recap on that and what has happened in the last few minutes.
So, Mark, I was here this morning at the invitation of the CEO of the Nation Media Group to come and receive a donation from the Nation Media Group on behalf of the company to support the appeal by Kenya Red Cross earlier last month to reach out to Kenyans who are facing severe drought situation in many parts of the country. So this morning we got a donation of 5 million Kenyan shillings, 2 million cash and 3 million in kind, which for me would go a long way in complementing the bigger budget that we had set out to look for the 1 billion Kenyan shilling to reach to Kenyans who are in dire need of assistance now.
How's the response been in terms of reaching that target of 1 billion shillings in, bringing an end to this problem?
I think if I look at both locally and internationally, because you also use the International Red Cross as part of this appeal, so I would say we're close to 40% of that within the first month, and I think now the momentum is picking up, and I believe at the end of the day we should reach the full target or be very close to it, maybe at 85 to 90% is our goal.
Let's speak about the situation. In your view, did it take the government a bit too long to declare this a national crisis and actually deal with it at that level?
No, I would say in comparison between now and 2011, when we had a similar situation, it was in around May when the government then declared a national disaster in May. This government has now declared in February. I want to say that the response by the government this time around has been much more quick and much more earlier. Had it not been for that early intervention, the situation today would have been even more dire for more Kenyans, because since September last year, after the assessment of the long rains, results were released to show that the long rains had basically failed, and 1.3 million Kenyans then needed assistance. So October, November, December last year, a lot of efforts was put by the government, by the Red Cross, by the UN agencies and other partners with the government to help. The government put in about 54 million US dollars, which was 5.4 billion Kenyan shillings. And then the second phase is now January to April, where they have put in another budget of 11 billion, but they have put in 7 billion. There's a shortfall of the 4 that they're looking for. And then from July onwards to October, there's another 7 billion being looked for. Total is about 22 billion. Right. The fact of the matter, Mark, is that even now the predictions are the weather patterns would be that we'll get the rains in March, April, but they'll be not sufficient. So we're looking at a long haul drought drawn from now up to maybe October.
Those are big figures, astronomical figures that you're quoting. I mean, if they can actually come in response to the disaster, people ask, time and time again. We were with you when we were doing the Kenyans for Kenya campaign. Why can't this actually be brought before in terms of preventive rather than reactionary?
So, Mark, like I was just saying earlier this morning in the other interviews, that, look, I mean, it's not easy to end this drought cyclical we're talking now. It's doable, it can be done, but it's long haul. You need 10, 15, 20 years of massive investment in these areas. As you know, 2/3 of Kenya is arid and semi-arid. These are the least developed areas of this country, called the Turkana of this country, the Marsabit, the Moyale, the Samburu, the Baringo, the Mandera, Wajir, Garissa. All these areas are areas that have been marginalized since, prior to independence and even after independence. We need massive infrastructure development. We need to look at huge investment in water harvesting, and with mega dams, not just even major dams. And with those dams, then you can look at the idea of farming, idea of pasture for the animals, so as to avoid the conflict that exists today between the pastoralists and the farming communities. But we can't address this issue short-termism as we are thinking now. And people think, okay, Kenyans for Kenyans, we raised 1 billion. So what did we do? Did we not resolve the issue? You need trillions of shillings to address the issue and over a long period of time.
Let's speak to that. You've just mentioned Kenyans for Kenya, the last campaign, and also the ongoing campaign. What is normally at the back of the minds of Kenyans is as they give their hard-earned money, whether corporates or individuals especially, they ask, where does this go to? So just to reassure people who are actually giving and responding to the current crisis, just help them understand what happens when such a gift is given.
So first and foremost, I want to say it's the responsibility of the government, both county government and central government, to take care of the well-being of their citizens during distress. But I'm saying this current problem is of such magnitude that ordinary Kenyans also need to support and be their brothers and sisters keepers, in addition to what the government is doing. What I also want to say further to that is that today, in this current emergency and in our appeal, we have said we don't want to do food distribution. We will prefer to do cash transfers to ordinary Kenyans so that they have a purchasing power. What people are lacking, Mark, out in Turkana or out in the villages in Ganze, Bamba, in Kilifi or in Mandera or in Samburu or whatever it may be, they just have lost their dignity by not having the purchasing power to buy food for their children. So giving 3,000 shillings a month is what will at least bring 1 meal a day to their homes for 1 month. Imagine you and I, how much thousand do you spend for your lunch or your dinner or your breakfast in town here in Nairobi? So we're saying these are poorest of the poor, and they have been identified, selected by the community, by the county government, by central government and agencies like ourselves. We've identified who are the most vulnerable in these communities. Once we select them, and largely we choose women because we trust women and elderly men. These are the most vulnerable people, and children. So cash transfer today with technology, Kenya is the home of technology. M-Pesa is what was innovation that came out of Kenya, and today almost close to 30 million Kenyans have M-Pesa today. So you could in every village send this money, direct transfer from Nairobi, cutting down bureaucracies of cost of logistics, cost of food purchases, which are too expensive, susceptible to corruption and mismanagement. Here it's going direct to the individual from a press of a button in Nairobi to your account in Ganze, in Bamba, in Marakwet, in Turkana, wherever you are. People then will ask, is there food on the ground? And I want to say, yes, commodities will find their way in this devolved structure as long as people have money. And commodities will go to where the money is. And we're saying that, please, there is potatoes they can buy, there are cabbages they can buy. I don't have to just give them maize and beans all the time that they don't even want.
Doesn't this give the opportunity to, or actually the event where opportunists would raise to the occasion and now go sell where they think the money is being sent?
No, they will sell, but it's on market days. I was in Tangle Bay in Baringo County 10 days ago, in the middle of nowhere. As long as you have Mtandao, you have your connection, people are dancing. They are receiving a message on their phones that they have received the money. There's a market out. It's a market day. So they buy cabbages, they buy potatoes from Nyandarua, from Laikipia, from other places. It's not for lack of food in the country. There's food in the country. But the food we're talking about, the staple diet, is maize, beans, oil. That's what's prescribed. And we're saying we want to get away from that.
Yeah, Mr. Gullet, for that lady that you see in the picture, destitute, either pastoralists or in remote parts of Turkana, it's hard to believe that their priority would be to keep on a phone. You're on the ground, you meet them.
They have phones. Everyone in this country has phones. There are guys who may not have food on the table, but they have phones, whether they're given by relatives or they buy themselves, but they have phones. We were in Dukana we were in Northwood with the First Lady earlier this week, and Her Excellency, and there people had phones.
Right. What's the selection criteria again? Selection, just to make sure that this money goes to this individual.
Yes. So with the county government, with the central government, with the community leadership in these communities, the worst affected areas, even in a county, is decided. Because not all of them face the same. Anyone who is employed, anyone who has an earning, anyone who is on the hunger safety net of the government or any other income will not be put in this program. So they'll choose the poorest of the poor. When they have been chosen by the community and with our participation, then we trust that information. Largely we're saying women and elderly men, because we trust these women, that they will be the providers of their families, actually the keepers of their families, and they would make sure that this money is well utilized. So once they have been identified and selected, they are registered. They are registered, and once they are registered, we do these cash transfers.
In an election year, you would expect also politicians to try and use this as, to their means. How do you ensure that doesn't happen? Because you're in collaboration with the national and county governments and, of course, community leaders.
Yes, but politicians haven't played much role in this, and I think they are very careful. Food is where, in the past, food has been power and politics. the distribution of food has gone to the wrong people. I have had discussion with His Excellency the President. The President basically supports this. And the President, in declaring the national disaster, he said much of this money that the government is giving, where possible, should be done through cash transfer, because it gives people back their dignity. Imagine a mother with 3-4 children with her, lining up for 6, 7, 8 hours, waiting for 3-4 kilograms of food. I mean, it's dehumanizing.
Yes.
It's been done in the past, fine. But today with technology, we should embrace technology and give people their dignity to have the purchasing power, because what they lack is just purchasing power.
Yeah, we're at 40%, as you mentioned, as we wrap up. We're at 40% of the target, that is 1 billion, in raising money to support those who are, languishing in this drought. You appeal to the Kenyan, not the person with the big muscle in terms of financial, but you appeal to a Kenyan who, can sacrifice one or two things.
So we're saying for ordinary Kenyan, if you can spare 3,000 shillings a month, you can embrace a family.
Okay.
You can embrace a family by helping that family to feed itself for 1 month. You can do that February now, March, April is the first 3 months. So we're looking for a 3-month sponsorship of a family. You want to be linked to the family, you have direct contact with the family, we can provide that mark.
Yes.
So we're saying to Kenyans, it is not too much to find 3,000 to help another Kenyan, for those of us who have and who have been privileged. So we have people who are, some have come and say 50 families I want to support, others say 3 families, 2 families, 5 families, 10 families. So we're saying it's not even the amount, it's the principle. We want to be our brothers and sisters keepers. It would be wrong, moral, religious-wise, for my brother and sister out in Turkana or in Marsabit to be hungry with their children, like we saw on NTV the other day, just having a black cup of tea for 9 kids, because the father couldn't provide for his children, yet I can do. Then it should be my humble responsibility to help that.
How do I connect?
You can send this through M-Pesa to Kenya Red Cross, and we have pay bill numbers, or you can donate directly to Kenya Red Cross.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time and your work that you continue to do in terms of helping Kenyans in this particular crisis.
Thank you, Mark.
And may, of course, more Kenyans come out in support, and largely so, the national government and county government take their place in addressing this national disaster.